Spider-Man No Way Home is exactly what I wanted from a live-action Spider-Man movie. It's emotional, it's exciting, funny, heartbreaking, and somehow it manages to juggle decades worth of Spider-Man history without completely falling apart at the seams. Every single time that I watch this movie, I'm reminded why Spider-Man has always been one of my favorite superheroes of all time. What's up, y'all? Welcome to my review for Spider-Man No Way Home. After his identity is revealed to the entire world, Peter Parker asks Doctor Strange to cast a spell that will make everyone forget that he's Spider-Man. When that spell goes horribly wrong, villains and eventually Spider-Man from other universes begin entering the MCU, forcing Peter to face consequences unlike anything he's ever experienced before. The first thing that I want to talk about is Tom Holland, because I genuinely believe that this is his best performance as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Not just out of his own trilogy, but out of every appearance that he's made in the MCU. For the first time, it really felt like he completely understood both sides of the character. He's still funny, still awkward, has tons of charisma in this role. But this is also the first time where we truly see Peter Parker suffer in a way that defines Spider-Man. The biggest example of that is Aunt May's death. That entire sequence hit me straight in the feels. Tom Holland's reaction felt so authentic. There's disbelief, panic, anger, sadness. You can literally watch every emotion hit him in real time. Part of why that scene works is because we've spent multiple movies watching this version of Peter grow. We've watched him become more confident, more capable, and more independent. So when everything is ripped away from him in one moment, it hurts because we've been on that journey with him the entire time. But honestly, a huge amount of credit goes to Tom Holland himself. His performance here is absolutely incredible. This is the movie where he stops feeling like that young Spider-Man in the MCU and starts feeling like, well, Spider-Man. Across the board, I think the performances are fantastic. Zendaya gives what I think is easily her best performance as MJ. Now, I still have that one criticism that's followed my other two reviews of this trilogy from the very beginning, and that is this version of MJ has changed quite a bit from movie to movie. She almost feels like a different character here than she did in Homecoming and even Far From Home. Now, this is more consistent with what we got at the end of Far From Home. I will say that. It was almost like someone wrote her one way at the very beginning, and then another writer came in and wrote her completely different for the ending. So it was like we got two totally different characters in that movie. So I do like what they have done with her character in No Way Home, though. But overall, there has been some inconsistency with the writing over the course of these three movies. And I'll continue saying this. This isn't really the MJ from the comics. Not in my point of view anyways. I understand what they're trying to do by modernizing the character. And while she isn't my definitive Mary Jane, but I do think they finally figure out who MJ is in this trilogy. This is my favorite version of her by far. Her chemistry with Tom Holland is fantastic, and it kind of makes sense considering they're married now. And their scene at the end of the movie absolutely lands when Peter promises he'll come back, when he tells her he'll make her remember him, knowing full well that he's probably lying to himself. That scene hurts. It hits you right in the feels because ultimately he chooses not to tell her at the end. And I absolutely love that decision from this character. That ending perfectly captures what Spider-Man has always represented to me. Peter Parker and Spider-Man are constantly at this tug of war with one another. Peter wants a normal life. He wants friends, love, family. But Spider-Man always forces him to sacrifice those things. And that's what makes this ending feel so earned. By the end of the movie, he's lost, let's count it, Aunt May, MJ, Ned, Happy, all the Avengers, just everyone that knew him, he loses. Nobody is going to remember Peter Parker after this movie. And despite all that, he still makes the choice to save everyone rather than be selfish and try to fix everything yet again. So to me, That is the hallmark personality trait of Spider-Man. Not because he wins, because he's always going to choose to do the right thing, even when it cost him everything. That's just one of those defining characteristics of Spider-Man throughout decades of comics, anime shows, and movies. And I think No Way Home nails that aspect of the character. Now, let's talk about the multiverse, because honestly, I think this is still my favorite use of the multiverse in the MCU. There have been bigger multiverse stories since this movie for sure, but none of them hit me emotionally the way that No Way Home does. Seeing Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield show up was one of the best theater experiences that I've ever had. Now, we all knew it was coming. Like, it was rumored for years that this is what was going to happen. But actually seeing them step through those portals was an incredible moment, especially when you grew up with all of these movies, seeing every single movie in theater. So what I appreciate the most is that they weren't just there for nostalgia. Now, granted, nostalgia definitely plays a part in it, but they had meaningful character arcs here. They weren't just thrown in this movie all willy-nilly. Andrew Garfield is a prime example. I honestly think they handled his character perfectly here. Ever since The Amazing Spider-Man 2, fans have talked about Gwen Stacy's death. That moment haunts Peter, so having Andrew Spider-Man save MJ in almost the exact same way. And what sucks about Andrew Garfield's The Amazing Spider-Man 3 was we never got resolution to him not saving Gwen Stacy. We never see what comes after his failure there. That moment haunts Peter forever. So having Andrew's Spider-Man save MJ in the exact same way that Gwen Stacy died, watching him break down afterwards, he immediately realizes this is what he needed to finally start healing. It's such an awesome payoff for a couple of movies that happened years ago, and for a character that really, no one really complains about Andrew Garfield. They just complain about the movie around him, because I thought he was an amazing Spider-Man, pun fucking intended there. Honestly, I think this moment was perfect. It's one of my favorite moments of the entire movie. The villains are also fantastic, especially Willem Dafoe. I mean, good Lord, this dude somehow comes back after 20 years and was even better than he was before. His Green Goblin is funny, is terrifying, the split personality, the manipulation. He steals every scene that he's in. And one of my favorite moments is when Peter is beating him in the face and Green Goblin is just laughing away. It highlights a lot of the disturbing split personality aspect of that character. And it shows exactly how broken Norman is. And I love that Peter almost gives in. He's ready to kill him towards the end. He's consumed by that anger. He's standing right on the edge of becoming something that he never wants to become, until Tobey's Spider-Man steps in. And that moment isn't just fan service to me. It's Peter choosing not to lose himself. It's him becoming the Spider-Man he's always been meant to be. I think the middle portion slows down a little bit. Once all the multiverse villains start showing up and Peter's trying to cure everyone, the pace definitely eases off compared to the first and third acts. Now, I don't think it's boring by any means, and this isn't really a super huge complaint of mine. This is, if I had to complain about something, it is that the middle portion of him trying to round up all of the villains, it gets a little monotonous and it slows down the pacing a little bit. The character interactions are great. Doctor Strange is fantastic. The humor between him and Spider-Man is absolutely hilarious. And speaking of Doctor Strange, I loved his inclusion in this movie. I was not a huge fan of, now, don't get me wrong, I loved Iron Man being in Homecoming, but I think he was in there a little too much. His inclusion in this movie was really, really awesome. His chemistry with Tom Holland is fantastic. They bounce off each other so naturally, whether they're arguing, joking around, or trying to solve those impossible problems with the multiverse. They're just incredibly entertaining together. And then there's that mirror dimension fight, which is absolutely phenomenal, by the way. Visually, one of my favorite scenes in any Spider-Man movie ever. And I liked how Peter uses math and geometry to outsmart Doctor Strange instead of overpowering him. And to me, that was just a clever way to resolve that fight, more so than we've gotten with any of the other fight resolutions. I thought that was more unique within the Spider-Man universe. The CGI looked really, really great here. After a rewatch, I didn't really notice anything wrong with it, so it's holding up to this point. Which, if you've listened or watched any of my reviews, then you know that the CGI is usually pretty terrible in these Marvel movies. But right now, the visuals still look really great. And this sequence was creative and just one of my favorite action sequences in the entire MCU. Overall, I think the story somehow manages to balance an unbelievable amount of moving pieces. Multiple Spider-Man, multiple villains, you got Doctor Strange, the multiverse, you got Peter's personal life, Aunt May and her death, and the emotional fallout from that. On paper, this movie should completely collapse under the weight of everything that they want to throw into this movie. And it really feels like it's walking the tightrope the entire time. Like, if it just deviates a little bit, that movie falls apart. But somehow it never does. It keeps all those elements moving toward one emotional conclusion. And because every major decision is centered around Peter Parker's journey, the movie never loses sight of what actually matters. So overall, I absolutely love Spider-Man No Way Home. This isn't just one of my favorite MCU movies. It's one of my favorite Spider-Man movies ever made. It captures everything that I love about the character, his responsibility, his sacrifices, the hope that he brings. There's heartbreak, perseverance. It reminds me so much of watching like the 90s animated series growing up, while also giving me flashes of Into the Spider-Verse with the interaction between all three Spider-Man. It scratches an itch that I've wanted from live action Spider-Man movies for years. And by the time Peter swings through New York in that classic red and blue suit during the final scene, living completely on his own, you've watched him transform into the Spider-Man that we've always known. Not because he got stronger, but because he lost everything and he still chose to be Spider-Man over everything else. So I cannot wait to watch Brand New Day. It is one of my most, if not the most, anticipated movie for 2026. I love Spider-Man. It's, technically speaking, my number 2 favorite superhero, right below Batman. But I've always enjoyed this character and the things that he goes through. I just relate to so much of what this character is. So I love Spider-Man. I love this movie. And I can't wait to see what else we get from Tom Holland's Spider-Man franchise. So, guys, let me know down in the comments below of what you thought about Spider-Man No Way Home. Does this movie still hold up for y'all? I know a lot of people will watch this movie the first time and they're like, oh my God, it was so fucking amazing. And then they rewatch it and they say, yeah, it's really not that great. Let me know down in the comments of what you think on a rewatch. Is it better or worse than the first time? Also, hit that like, subscribe button. That's really going to help me grow this channel. And I appreciate y'all joining me for this review series. We got one more coming up, which is Brand New Day, whenever I decide to go freaking see that. I think every showing has been sold out for, it was definitely over the weekend. So I'm going to try to get to it pretty soon. But guys, that's going to be it for me. I will catch y'all next time on another one. Laters.